Chosen one, there is a shift happening in your life right now. You feel it, don't you? That stirring in your spirit, that quickening in your soul that tells you something is about to change. Something is about to break open. Something is about to be released that has been held back for far too long. God is saying to you today, chosen one, that there is one simple shift, one small adjustment in your spiritual posture that will cause your blessings to multiply overnight. Not over months, not over years, overnight. And I want you to understand something powerful about this word, overnight. Let's break that down. When God says overnight, He's not talking about human timing. He's talking about divine timing. He's talking about the moment when your spirit aligns with His frequency, when your heart beats in rhythm with heaven's heartbeat, when your faith finally matches the magnitude of what He's been preparing for you all along. Chosen one, you have been walking through a season of preparation, a season where it felt like nothing was moving, a season where it felt like your prayers were hitting the ceiling, a season where it felt like everyone else was getting their breakthrough while you remained hidden, while you remained in the shadows, while you remained in what felt like spiritual exile. But what you didn't understand, what the enemy tried to hide from you, is that you weren't being punished. You were being prepared. You weren't being overlooked. You were being positioned. You weren't being forgotten. You were being forged in the fire of God's perfect timing. The shift that God is requiring from you is so simple that your mind might reject it. Your intellect might dismiss it. Your flesh might resist it. But your spirit recognizes it because your spirit has been crying out for this very thing. Chosen one, the shift is this. Stop trying to force your blessings and start flowing with your blessings. Let me say that again because this is the key that unlocks everything. Stop trying to force your blessings and start flowing with your blessings. You have been operating in a spirit of striving. You have been operating in a spirit of human effort. You have been trying to make things happen in your own strength, in your own wisdom, in your own timing. And every time you do that, you actually push your blessings further away from you. It's like trying to catch water with your hands. The tighter you squeeze, the more it slips through your fingers. The harder you grasp, the faster it flows away from you. But when you cup your hands gently, when you receive with open palms, the water stays. The blessing remains. The provision flows. God is showing me something powerful about your life right now, chosen one. I see you standing at the edge of a river. This river represents the flow of God's blessings, His favor, His provision, His breakthrough power. And you've been standing on the bank, watching the water flow by, trying to figure out how to redirect the river to come to you. But God is saying, stop trying to redirect the river. Step into the river. Let the current carry you. Let the flow lift you. Let the power of my blessing stream transport you to places you never could have reached on your own. This is what it means to flow with your blessings instead of forcing your blessings. This is the simple shift that changes everything. Chosen one, there have been doors that you've been pushing on that were meant to be pulled. There have been opportunities that you've been chasing that were meant to chase you. There have been relationships that you've been trying to fix that were meant to be released. There have been situations that you've been trying to control that were meant to be surrendered. The enemy has had you convinced that if you don't make it happen, it won't happen. That if you don't force it, it won't come. That if you don't push, it won't move. But that is the lie of the flesh. That is the deception of the carnal mind. That is the voice of fear disguised as wisdom. God operates in a completely different realm, chosen one. In His realm, you attract what you don't chase. You receive what you don't demand. You multiply what you don't hoard. You gain what you release. Let's break down this word flow, because understanding this word will revolutionize your spiritual life. When you flow, you move with divine rhythm instead of human urgency. When you flow, you trust divine timing instead of forcing human timing. When you flow, you operate in supernatural ease instead of natural struggle. Jesus said, "My yoke is easy and my burden is light." That word easy in the original language means well-fitting. It means custom-made. It means designed specifically for you. God has designed a way of blessing you that fits perfectly with who you are, how you're wired, what your purpose is, and where you're going. But you've been trying to wear someone else's yoke. You've been trying to receive your blessings the way you saw someone else receive theirs. You've been trying to force your breakthrough to look like their breakthrough. You've been comparing your journey to their journey, your timing to their timing, your method to their method. God is saying, stop it. Stop trying to be blessed like them. Stop trying to receive like them. Stop trying to flow like them. You have your own river. You have your own current. You have your own flow. Chosen one. The reason your blessings have been delayed is not because God doesn't want to bless you. It's not because you're not worthy. It's not because you haven't prayed enough or fasted enough or given enough. The reason your blessings have been delayed is because you've been swimming upstream. You've been fighting the very current that was designed to carry you to your destiny. You've been resisting the very flow that was orchestrated to transport you to your next level. You've been opposing the very stream that was created to multiply your provision. But tonight, something shifts. Tonight, the revelation breaks through. Tonight, you stop swimming upstream and you start flowing downstream. You stop resisting and you start receiving. You stop forcing and you start flowing. I prophesy over you right now, chosen one, that within 24 hours of making this shift, you will begin to see evidence of multiplication in your life. Not addition, multiplication. Because when you flow with God's blessings instead of forcing your blessings, you tap into the supernatural mathematics of the kingdom. In the kingdom, one can chase 1,000. In the kingdom, 5 loaves feed 5,000. In the kingdom, a widow's oil multiplies as long as there are vessels to fill. That's not addition mathematics. That's multiplication mathematics. That's kingdom mathematics. And you, chosen one, are about to experience kingdom mathematics in your life. Let me tell you what this looks like practically. When you stop forcing and start flowing, opportunities begin to seek you out instead of you chasing opportunities. When you stop forcing and start flowing, the right people begin to appear in your life at exactly the right time. When you stop forcing and start flowing, resources begin to show up from sources you never expected. When you stop forcing and start flowing, problems that seemed impossible to solve begin to resolve themselves. When you stop forcing and start flowing, doors that were locked begin to swing open without you even having to knock. When you stop forcing and start flowing, favor begins to follow you instead of you having to beg for favor. This is what it means to be in alignment with the flow of heaven. This is what it means to be synchronized with the rhythm of God. This is what it means to be operating in your divine frequency. Chosen one, I need you to understand something crucial. The enemy has been watching your life. He has been studying your patterns. He has been observing your methods. And he discovered that every time you operate in striving, every time you move in human effort, every time you try to force your breakthrough, you actually create resistance in the spiritual realm. It's like trying to push a revolving door the wrong way. The harder you push, the more it resists. But when you simply walk with the direction of the door, when you move with its natural motion, when you flow with its design, it carries you effortlessly to the other side. The enemy has had you pushing against the revolving door of your destiny. He has had you fighting against the very mechanism that was designed to transport you to your next level. But God is saying today, stop pushing. Start flowing. Stop fighting. Start following. Stop resisting. Start receiving. And when you make this shift, chosen one, everything changes overnight. Let me paint a picture for you of what your life looks like when you're flowing instead of forcing. You wake up in the morning and instead of immediately going into planning mode, plotting mode, scheming mode, you go into listening mode. You ask the Holy Spirit, what is the flow of this day? Where is the current taking me? What is the rhythm I need to move in? And throughout the day, instead of forcing conversations, you flow into conversations. Instead of forcing connections, you flow into connections. Instead of forcing opportunities, you flow into opportunities. Instead of forcing solutions, you flow into solutions. You become like water, chosen one. You become adaptable. You become fluid. You become responsive to the leading of the Spirit instead of rigid in your own agenda. Water always finds a way. Water always reaches its destination. Water always flows downhill toward its purpose. And when you operate like water in the hands of God, you always find a way to your blessing. You always reach your destination. You always flow toward your purpose. But here's what the enemy doesn't want you to know about this shift. When you stop forcing and start flowing, you don't just receive your blessings faster. You receive greater blessings. You don't just get what you were trying to force. You get what you couldn't even imagine forcing. Because when you flow with God's agenda instead of forcing your agenda, you tap into resources that were never on your radar. You connect with people who were never in your network. You access levels of favor that were never in your planning. You receive types of provision that were never in your calculations. This is why God says your blessings will multiply overnight. Because flowing puts you in position for exponential increase instead of incremental increase. Flowing puts you in the stream of supernatural acceleration instead of the struggle of natural accumulation. Chosen one, I want you to think about your biggest need right now. That situation that has been keeping you up at night. That problem that has been consuming your thoughts. That lack that has been dominating your prayers. I want you to see yourself releasing your grip on that situation. I want you to see yourself opening your hands and letting go of your need to control how it gets resolved. Can you see it? Can you feel the relief that comes when you stop trying to be God in that situation and you let God be God? Can you sense the peace that floods your soul when you stop carrying what you were never meant to carry? That's the beginning of the shift. That's the doorway into the flow. That's the entrance into the stream of God's supernatural provision. But I need to warn you, chosen one, your flesh is going to resist this shift. Your mind is going to rebel against this revelation. Your emotions are going to scream that if you let go, nothing will happen. If you stop pushing, you'll be left behind. If you stop forcing, you'll miss your opportunity. That is the voice of fear. That is the whisper of doubt. That is the lie of the enemy who knows that the moment you make this shift, the moment you start flowing instead of forcing, his power to delay your blessings is broken. His ability to frustrate your progress is shattered. His capacity to keep you in the wilderness is destroyed. This is why this message is reaching you today, chosen one. This is why these words are penetrating your spirit right now. This is why something in your soul is saying yes to this revelation. Because your season of forcing is ending. Your season of striving is concluding. Your season of swimming upstream is terminating. Your season of flowing is beginning. And when you flow, everything that was meant for you begins to flow toward you. When you flow, everyone who was assigned to help you begins to flow into your life. When you flow, every resource that was allocated for your purpose begins to flow into your hands. When you flow, every door that was designated for your destiny begins to flow open. This is the supernatural mathematics of flowing instead of forcing. This is the divine economics of trusting instead of trying. This is the kingdom principle of receiving instead of reaching. Chosen one, let me tell you what I see in the spirit realm right now. I see a dam that has been holding back the flow of your blessings. This dam has been constructed out of your fear, your doubt, your need to control, your insistence on doing things your way, your resistance to God's timing, your refusal to trust His methods. But as you make this shift from forcing to flowing, I see cracks beginning to appear in that dam. I see pressure building behind that wall. I see the water level rising to the point where the dam cannot contain what God has been storing up for you. And overnight, I see that dam breaking. I see the wall crumbling. I see the floodgates opening. I see a torrent of blessings, a rush of favor, a cascade of provision flowing into your life with such force, such volume, such magnitude that it will sweep away every obstacle, every hindrance, every barrier that has been standing between you and your destiny. This is what God means when He says your blessings will multiply overnight, not that they will slowly increase. Not that they will gradually improve, but that they will suddenly explode into your life with supernatural acceleration, divine multiplication, exponential increase. Chosen one, I need you to prepare for this flood. I need you to get ready for this rush. I need you to position yourself for this overflow. Because when the dam of your blessings breaks, when the wall of delay crumbles, when the floodgates of heaven open over your life, you don't want to be caught unprepared. How do you prepare? You prepare by expanding your capacity to receive. You prepare by increasing your ability to steward. You prepare by developing your skills to manage what's coming. You prepare by strengthening your character to handle the responsibility that comes with greater blessing. But most importantly, you prepare by making the shift right now. You prepare by releasing your grip right now. You prepare by letting go of control right now. You prepare by stepping into the flow right now. Because the shift doesn't happen gradually, chosen one. The shift happens in a moment. The shift happens in an instant. The shift happens the second you decide to stop forcing and start flowing. And that second can be right now. I feel the presence of God so strongly in this moment. I sense the power of the Holy Spirit hovering over your life right now. I perceive the angels of breakthrough positioning themselves around your circumstances right now. Because heaven recognizes when a chosen one is about to make the shift that changes everything. Heaven celebrates when a son or daughter stops struggling and starts surrendering. Heaven rejoices when a warrior stops fighting the wrong battle and starts flowing in the right rhythm. Heaven releases resources when a chosen one finally aligns with the frequency of divine favor. Chosen one, this is your moment. This is your time. This is your Kairos moment where chronological time gives way to God's perfect timing, where human effort gives way to divine effortlessness, where your struggling gives way to His supernatural flow. I see you making the decision right now. I see you releasing your grip right now. I see you opening your hands right now. I see you stepping into the river right now. I see you allowing the current of God's blessing to lift you, carry you, transport you to the place you've been trying so hard to reach on your own. And as you step into this flow, I hear the sound of heaven's applause. I hear the roar of angelic celebration. I hear the voice of the Father saying, "Finally, finally, my child understands. Finally, my chosen one gets it. Finally, they're ready to receive what I've been trying to give them all along." Chosen one, your blessing multiplication starts tonight. Your breakthrough acceleration begins now. Your supernatural provision is released in this moment. Because you've made the shift from forcing to flowing. You've moved from striving to surrendering. You've transitioned from pushing to receiving. And when God's chosen ones flow in divine alignment, when they move in supernatural rhythm, when they operate in kingdom frequency, there is no limit to what heaven can do through them, for them, and in them. Your blessings are multiplying overnight because you are no longer standing in the way of your own miracle. Your provision is accelerating because you are no longer blocking your own breakthrough. Your favor is compounding because you are no longer fighting against your own destiny. You are flowing, chosen one. You are in the current. You are in the stream. You are in the river of God's supernatural blessing. And this river leads to your promised land. This current carries you to your destiny. This flow transports you to your purpose. Let the river take you, chosen one. Let the current carry you. Let the flow of heaven's blessing transport you to places you never could have reached through forcing, striving, or struggling. Because when you flow with God, you go where only God can take you. When you move in His rhythm, you reach heights only He can lift you to. When you surrender to His current, you arrive at destinations only He knows how to navigate you toward. Your multiplication starts now. Your acceleration begins today. Your overflow is released in this moment. Because you, chosen one, have made the simple shift that changes everything. You have moved from forcing your blessings to flowing with your blessings. And in flowing, you have unlocked the supernatural mathematics of the kingdom where one becomes 1,000, little becomes much, and overnight becomes the timeline for miraculous multiplication in your life. The shift is complete. The alignment is established. The flow has begun. And your blessings are multiplying overnight because heaven recognizes when its chosen ones finally understand the secret of supernatural increase. Stop forcing what you're meant to flow with and start flowing with what you're meant to receive. This is your season, chosen one. This is your time. This is your overflow. Let it flow. Chosen one, I need you to understand the power of what just happened. In making this shift, in stepping into this flow, you have just accessed a frequency of blessing that most people never discover. You have just aligned yourself with a current of favor that most believers never experience. You have just positioned yourself in a stream of provision that most chosen ones never flow in. And the enemy is terrified. He is absolutely terrified because he knows what happens when God's chosen ones stop forcing and start flowing. He knows what happens when warriors stop struggling and start surrendering. He knows what happens when kings and queens stop pushing and start receiving. Revival breaks out. Breakthrough accelerates. Miracles multiply. Signs and wonders follow. The supernatural becomes natural. The impossible becomes inevitable. This is why he fought so hard to keep you in the cycle of forcing, chosen one. This is why he worked so tirelessly to trap you in the pattern of striving. This is why he invested so much energy in convincing you that if you didn't make it happen, it wouldn't happen. Because he knows that flowing chosen ones are unstoppable chosen ones. He knows that surrendered warriors are victorious warriors. He knows that trusting believers are dangerous believers. And now you are flowing. Now you are surrendered. Now you are trusting, which means now you are unstoppable. Now you are victorious. Now you are dangerous to every force of darkness that has been working against your destiny. Let me prophesy something specific over your life right now, chosen one. I see the phone calls that are coming. I see the emails that are being sent. I see the invitations that are being written. I see the opportunities that are being prepared. I see the connections that are being orchestrated. I see the resources that are being mobilized. All because you stopped forcing and started flowing. All because you released your grip and opened your hands. All because you stepped out of the struggle and into the stream. The people who need to find you are about to find you. The opportunities that need to locate you are about to locate you. The resources that need to reach you are about to reach you. The breakthrough that needs to manifest in your life is about to manifest. And it's all going to feel effortless, chosen one. It's all going to feel natural. It's all going to feel like it was meant to be this way all along. Because it was. This is how God always intended for your blessings to come. This is how he always designed for your breakthrough to happen. This is how he always planned for your provision to flow. The struggle was never part of his design. The striving was never part of his blueprint. The forcing was never part of his methodology. Those were detours. Those were delays. Those were distractions from the divine flow he had prepared for your life. But now you're back in the flow. Now you're back in the current. Now you're back in the stream of his supernatural blessing. And everything that was delayed is about to be delivered. Everything that was postponed is about to be presented. Everything that was withheld is about to be released. Chosen one, let me share with you what I'm seeing in the spirit realm as you make this shift. I see ancient doors that have been sealed for generations beginning to creak open. I see old wells of blessing that have been stopped up beginning to flow again. I see dormant gifts that have been buried beginning to resurface. This shift from forcing to flowing doesn't just affect your present circumstances. It reaches back into your past and activates blessings that were stored up for you before you were even born. It reaches forward into your future and accelerates timelines that were set in motion before the foundation of the world. Your great-grandmother's prayers are being answered through your alignment. Your grandfather's faithfulness is being rewarded through your surrender. Your parents' sacrifices are being vindicated through your trust. This flow connects you to a river of blessing that runs through your entire bloodline. And tonight, that river is flooding your life. But it's not just your family line that's being impacted, chosen one. Your shift from forcing to flowing is creating ripples in the spirit realm that will affect generations yet unborn. Your children will inherit a legacy of flow instead of force. Your children's children will walk in patterns of surrender instead of striving. Your lineage will operate in rhythms of trust instead of struggle. This is the generational impact of one chosen one making the decision to stop swimming upstream and start flowing downstream. This is the eternal consequence of one warrior laying down their weapons and picking up their wings. This is the lasting effect of one believer releasing their grip and opening their hands. You're not just changing your story tonight, chosen one. You're rewriting your family's story. You're redirecting your bloodline's destiny. You're realigning your generation's trajectory. And God is so proud of you. Heaven is so excited about what you've just done. The angels are so thrilled about the shift you've just made. Because they've been watching. They've been waiting. They've been preparing for this moment when you would finally understand that the blessing was never about the battle. The provision was never about the pushing. The breakthrough was never about the forcing. It was always about the flow. It was always about the surrender. It was always about the trust. Let me tell you what your life looks like 1 month from now, chosen one. I see you waking up in amazement at how different everything feels. I see you looking back at this moment as the turning point, the pivot point, the transformation point where everything changed. I see you telling your testimony of how you stopped fighting the river and started flowing with the river, how you stopped resisting the current and started riding the current, how you stopped opposing the stream and started operating in the stream. And people will ask you, how did it happen so fast? How did everything change so quickly? How did your breakthrough come so suddenly? And you'll smile and you'll say, I made a simple shift. I stopped forcing my blessings and started flowing with my blessings. And everything multiplied overnight. But chosen one, I need you to understand something crucial about maintaining this flow. The enemy is going to try to get you to go back to forcing. He's going to try to convince you to return to striving. He's going to try to seduce you back into struggling. He's going to whisper in your ear that the flow is too slow, that the current is too gentle, that the stream is too peaceful. He's going to try to make you believe that you need to help God, that you need to push the process, that you need to force the timeline. Don't listen to him, chosen one. Don't believe his lies. Don't fall for his deceptions. Because the moment you step out of the flow and back into forcing, you create resistance again. The moment you leave the current and return to striving, you generate friction again. The moment you abandon the stream and resume struggling, you establish barriers again. Stay in the flow, chosen one. Remain in the current. Abide in the stream. Trust the process. Trust the timing. Trust the one who designed the river and knows exactly where it leads. And when you're tempted to grab the oars and start rowing, remember this moment. Remember this revelation. Remember this shift. Remember that forcing creates resistance, but flowing creates multiplication. Remember that striving generates struggle, but surrendering generates breakthrough. Remember that pushing produces delay, but trusting produces acceleration. Chosen one, as we come to the end of this message, I want you to know that this is not just information you've received. This is not just inspiration you've encountered. This is transformation you've experienced. You are literally not the same person who started listening to these words. You have shifted. You have aligned. You have flowed into a new frequency of blessing. And from this frequency, from this flow, from this current of divine favor, there is no limit to what God can do through you, for you, with you, and in you. Because flowing chosen ones are limitless chosen ones. Surrendered warriors are boundless warriors. Trusting believers are infinite believers. Your blessings are multiplying overnight, not because you earned them through effort, but because you access them through alignment. Not because you deserve them through works, but because you receive them through surrender. Not because you forced them through struggle, but because you flowed into them through trust. This is the kingdom way, chosen one. This is the heaven method. This is the divine design for how God's chosen ones receive supernatural increase in their lives. You are flowing. Your blessings are multiplying. Your breakthrough is accelerating. Your provision is increasing. Your favor is expanding. Your destiny is manifesting. All because you made the simple shift that changes everything. All because you stopped forcing and started flowing. All because you released your grip and opened your hands. All because you stepped out of the struggle and into the stream. The flow has begun, chosen one. The current is carrying you. The river is taking you to places you never could have imagined, through paths you never could have planned, toward purposes you never could have predicted. Let it flow. Let it carry you. Let it take you. Because this river leads to your promised land, and you, chosen one, are finally flowing home. But I hear the Holy Spirit saying there's something more He wants to share with you tonight, chosen one. Something deeper about this flow that will lock in this transformation so powerfully that nothing can pull you back into the old patterns of forcing and striving. God is showing me that the reason so many of His chosen ones struggle with this shift from forcing to flowing is because they don't understand the spiritual science behind it. They don't comprehend the kingdom physics that govern how blessings move, how favor flows, how provision multiplies. Let me break this down for you, chosen one, because understanding this will revolutionize not just how you receive your blessings, but how you live your entire life. In the natural realm, everything operates by force and resistance. If you want to move something, you have to push it. If you want to achieve something, you have to work for it. If you want to obtain something, you have to fight for it. This is Newton's laws of motion applied to human existence. But the kingdom of heaven operates by completely different laws. The kingdom operates by the law of attraction, not the law of force. The kingdom operates by the law of alignment, not the law of effort. The kingdom operates by the law of flow, not the law of struggle. And here's the profound truth, chosen one. When you try to operate in the kingdom using natural laws, you create what I call spiritual friction. You generate resistance in the very realm where you're trying to receive your breakthrough. It's like trying to use a key that's almost the right shape, but not quite. It will go in the lock, but it won't turn. It will engage with the mechanism, but it won't open the door. You can force it, you can push harder, you can jiggle it, but all you'll do is damage the lock and wear out the key. But when you have the right key, when you approach the lock the right way, when you align properly with the mechanism, the door opens effortlessly. Click, turn, open. No force required. No struggle necessary. No resistance encountered. Chosen one, flowing is your key. Surrendering is your alignment. Trusting is your mechanism. And when you operate in the kingdom with the kingdom key, using kingdom alignment, through kingdom mechanism, every door of blessing opens effortlessly before you. This is why Jesus said, "My yoke is easy and my burden is light." He wasn't talking about the weight of responsibility. He was talking about the method of operation. He was describing kingdom physics. He was explaining spiritual science. When you're yoked with Jesus, when you're aligned with His flow, when you're moving in His rhythm, everything becomes easy not because the destination changes, but because the method changes. Not because the blessing becomes smaller, but because the path becomes smoother. Chosen one, I want you to think about a bird soaring through the sky. Does the bird struggle to fly? Does it force its way through the air? Does it fight against the wind? No. The bird understands aerodynamics. It positions its wings to catch the wind. It uses air currents to lift itself. It flows with the atmosphere instead of fighting against it. And because it flows instead of forces, because it aligns instead of fights, because it rides instead of resists, the bird can soar for hours without getting tired. It can travel great distances without exhaustion. It can reach incredible heights without strain. This is the picture of your life when you flow instead of force, chosen one. This is the image of your destiny when you surrender instead of struggle. This is the vision of your future when you trust instead of try. You will soar through challenges that used to exhaust you. You will travel distances toward your purpose that used to seem impossible. You will reach heights of blessing that used to feel unattainable. All because you learned the spiritual science of flow. All because you mastered the kingdom physics of surrender. All because you aligned with the divine aerodynamics of trust. But let me tell you what happens when you try to force your way to blessing, chosen one. It's like a bird trying to fly by flapping its wings as hard and as fast as possible, fighting against every air current, resisting every wind pattern, opposing every atmospheric condition. That bird will burn out quickly. It will exhaust itself rapidly. It will struggle to make any real progress. It will experience maximum effort for minimum results. And eventually, it will crash to the ground, completely spent, wondering why flying is so hard for it when it seems so easy for other birds. This is what has been happening in your life, chosen one. You've been trying to fly by flapping harder instead of flowing better. You've been attempting to soar by fighting stronger instead of surrendering smarter. You've been working to ascend by pushing harder instead of positioning better. But tonight, you learn to catch the wind. Tonight, you discover how to ride the current. Tonight, you master the art of divine aerodynamics. Tonight, you become a flowing chosen one instead of a forcing chosen one. And when chosen ones learn to flow, when warriors learn to surrender, when believers learn to trust, they don't just receive their blessings faster. They don't just experience their breakthrough sooner. They don't just access their provision quicker. They begin to operate in a realm of effortless manifestation where thoughts become things, where words create worlds, where faith moves mountains, where prayers shift atmospheres, where declarations change destinies. This is the realm you're entering, chosen one. This is the frequency you're accessing. This is the dimension you're stepping into. I prophesy over you that within 72 hours of embracing this flow, you will witness something in your life that will be undeniable evidence of supernatural intervention. Not coincidence, not luck, not good timing. Supernatural intervention. You will receive a phone call that you weren't expecting. You will get an offer that you weren't anticipating. You will encounter an opportunity that you weren't seeking. You will experience a breakthrough that you weren't forcing. And when it happens, you will know beyond a shadow of a doubt that it came because you stopped fighting the river and started flowing with the river. Because you stopped resisting the current and started riding the current. Because you stopped opposing the stream and started operating in the stream. Chosen one, let me share with you one final revelation about this flow that will anchor this transformation in your spirit forever. The Hebrew word for blessing is barakah, but the root of this word literally means to kneel by a pool of water. Do you understand the profound significance of this, chosen one? In the original language, in the foundational understanding, blessing is not something you fight for. It's not something you force. It's not something you struggle to obtain. Blessing is something you kneel beside, something you position yourself next to, something you align yourself with. You don't chase the pool. You don't force the water. You don't struggle with the source. You simply kneel beside it, and you receive what flows from it. This is the ancient Hebrew understanding of how blessing works. This is the biblical blueprint for how provision operates. This is the scriptural pattern for how favor functions. You kneel, you position, you align, you receive, you flow. And as you kneel beside the pool of God's blessing, as you position yourself next to the source of His favor, as you align yourself with the stream of His provision, the water doesn't just trickle into your life. It doesn't just drip into your circumstances. It doesn't just seep into your situation. It floods. It overflows. It multiplies. It expands beyond the boundaries of your expectation, beyond the limits of your imagination, beyond the constraints of your understanding. This is barakah, chosen one. This is the Hebrew reality of blessing that you're stepping into tonight. This is the ancient understanding that you're embracing right now. You are no longer a chosen one who fights for blessing. You are now a chosen one who flows with blessing. You are no longer a warrior who battles for favor. You are now a warrior who basks in favor. You are no longer a believer who struggles for provision. You are now a believer who streams with provision. Chosen one, I want you to see yourself right now, in this moment, making the transition from standing up in struggle to kneeling down in surrender. From fighting the flow to joining the flow. From opposing the current to embracing the current. Can you see it? Can you feel the shift happening in your spirit? Can you sense the realignment taking place in your soul? This is more than a mental change. This is more than an emotional adjustment. This is a spiritual metamorphosis. You are literally being transformed from a caterpillar consciousness to a butterfly consciousness. From a crawling mindset to a flying mindset. From a forcing frequency to a flowing frequency. And just like a butterfly doesn't struggle to fly, doesn't force its way through the air, doesn't fight against the wind, you are now entering a dimension of existence where your blessings don't require struggle, don't demand force, don't need fighting. They flow to you naturally. They come to you supernaturally. They manifest in your life effortlessly. But I hear the Holy Spirit saying there's something more He wants to share with you tonight, chosen one. Something deeper about this flow that will lock in this transformation so powerfully that nothing can pull you back into the old patterns of forcing and striving. God is showing me that the reason so many of His chosen ones struggle with this shift from forcing to flowing is because they don't understand the spiritual science behind it. They don't comprehend the kingdom physics that govern how blessings move, how favor flows, how provision multiplies. Let me break this down for you, chosen one, because understanding this will revolutionize not just how you receive your blessings, but how you live your entire life. In the natural realm, everything operates by force and resistance. If you want to move something, you have to push it. If you want to achieve something, you have to work for it. If you want to obtain something, you have to fight for it. This is Newton's laws of motion applied to human existence. But the kingdom of heaven operates by completely different laws. The kingdom operates by the law of attraction, not the law of force. The kingdom operates by the law of alignment, not the law of effort. The kingdom operates by the law of flow, not the law of struggle. And here's the profound truth, chosen one. When you try to operate in the kingdom using natural laws, you create what I call spiritual friction. You generate resistance in the very realm where you're trying to receive your breakthrough. It's like trying to use a key that's almost the right shape, but not quite. It will go in the lock, but it won't turn. It will engage with the mechanism, but it won't open the door. You can force it, you can push harder, you can jiggle it, but all you'll do is damage the lock and wear out the key. But when you have the right key, when you approach the lock the right way, when you align properly with the mechanism, the door opens effortlessly. Click, turn, open. No force required. No struggle necessary. No resistance encountered. Chosen one, flowing is your key. Surrendering is your alignment. Trusting is your mechanism. And when you operate in the kingdom with the kingdom key, using kingdom alignment, through kingdom mechanism, every door of blessing opens effortlessly before you. This is why Jesus said, "My yoke is easy and my burden is light." He wasn't talking about the weight of responsibility. He was talking about the method of operation. He was describing kingdom physics. He was explaining spiritual science. When you're yoked with Jesus, when you're aligned with His flow, when you're moving in His rhythm, everything becomes easy not because the destination changes, but because the method changes. Not because the blessing becomes smaller, but because the path becomes smoother. Chosen one, I want you to think about a bird soaring through the sky. Does the bird struggle to fly? Does it force its way through the air? Does it fight against the wind? No. The bird understands aerodynamics. It positions its wings to catch the wind. It uses air currents to lift itself. It flows with the atmosphere instead of fighting against it. And because it flows instead of forces, because it aligns instead of fights, because it rides instead of resists, The bird can soar for hours without getting tired. It can travel great distances without exhaustion. It can reach incredible heights without strain. This is the picture of your life when you flow instead of force, chosen one. This is the image of your destiny when you surrender instead of struggle. This is the vision of your future when you trust instead of try. You will soar through challenges that used to exhaust you. You will travel distances toward your purpose that used to seem impossible. You will reach heights of blessing that used to feel unattainable. All because you learned the spiritual science of flow. All because you mastered the kingdom physics of surrender. All because you aligned with the divine aerodynamics of trust. But let me tell you what happens when you try to force your way to blessing, chosen one. It's like a bird trying to fly by flapping its wings as hard and as fast as possible, fighting against every air current, resisting every wind pattern, opposing every atmospheric condition. That bird will burn out quickly. It will exhaust itself rapidly. It will struggle to make any real progress. It will experience maximum effort for minimum results. And eventually, it will crash to the ground, completely spent, wondering why flying is so hard for it when it seems so easy for other birds. This is what has been happening in your life, chosen one. You've been trying to fly by flapping harder instead of flowing better. You've been attempting to soar by fighting stronger instead of surrendering smarter. You've been working to ascend by pushing harder instead of positioning better. But tonight, you learn to catch the wind. Tonight, you discover how to ride the current. Tonight, you master the art of divine aerodynamics. Tonight, you become a flowing chosen one instead of a forcing chosen one. And when chosen ones learn to flow, when warriors learn to surrender, when believers learn to trust, they don't just receive their blessings faster. They don't just experience their breakthrough sooner. They don't just access their provision quicker. They begin to operate in a realm of effortless manifestation where thoughts become things, where words create worlds, where faith moves mountains, where prayers shift atmospheres, where declarations change destinies. This is the realm you're entering, chosen one. This is the frequency you're accessing. This is the dimension you're stepping into. I prophesy over you that within 72 hours of embracing this flow, you will witness something in your life that will be undeniable evidence of supernatural intervention. Not coincidence, not luck, not good timing. Supernatural intervention. You will receive a phone call that you weren't expecting. You will get an offer that you weren't anticipating. You will encounter an opportunity that you weren't seeking. You will experience a breakthrough that you weren't forcing. And when it happens, you will know beyond a shadow of a doubt that it came because you stopped fighting the river and started flowing with the river. Because you stopped resisting the current and started riding the current. Because you stopped opposing the stream and started operating in the stream. Chosen one, there's an even deeper dimension to this revelation that the Holy Spirit wants to unlock in your life tonight. Something so profound, so transformative, so revolutionary that it will not only multiply your blessings overnight, but it will establish you as a generational game changer in the earth realm. God is showing me that this simple shift from forcing to flowing is actually the activation of an ancient spiritual technology that has been dormant in your bloodline for generations. Your great-great-grandmother carried this frequency but never learned how to access it. Your grandfather possessed this gifting but never discovered how to activate it. Your parents inherited this anointing but never understood how to release it. But tonight, as you make this shift, as you embrace this flow, as you align with this current, you are not just accessing your personal breakthrough. You are activating a generational breakthrough that has been waiting for the right chosen one, in the right season, with the right revelation, to step into the right flow. Let me tell you what I'm seeing in the spirit realm right now, chosen one. I see ancient locks that have been sealed on your family line for decades beginning to click open. I see old vaults of blessing that have been closed on your bloodline for generations beginning to swing wide. I see dormant wells of favor that have been capped on your lineage for centuries beginning to overflow. This shift you're making tonight is not just about your lifetime. It's about your bloodline. It's not just about your generation. It's about every generation that came before you and every generation that will come after you. It's not just about your blessing. It's about your dynasty. And the enemy knows this, chosen one. He knows that when certain chosen ones learn to flow instead of force, they don't just transform their own lives. They transform their entire family tree. They don't just change their own story. They rewrite their bloodline's destiny. They don't just access their own provision. They unlock generational inheritance. This is why the resistance was so strong. This is why the opposition was so intense. This is why the warfare was so fierce. Because hell understood that your breakthrough would trigger a chain reaction of breakthroughs throughout your entire family line, both forward and backward through time. But tonight, the chain reaction begins. Tonight, the domino effect initiates. Tonight, the generational avalanche starts. Chosen one, I want you to think about your children and your children's children. I want you to envision your legacy and your lineage. I want you to see the generations that will emerge from your bloodline in the decades and centuries to come. Because of the shift you're making tonight, they will never have to struggle the way you struggled. Because of the flow you're accessing right now, they will never have to force the way you forced. Because of the current you're entering in this moment, they will never have to swim upstream the way you swam upstream. You are breaking generational patterns of struggle. You are shattering bloodline cycles of striving. You are demolishing family traditions of forcing. And you are establishing new patterns of flow, new cycles of surrender, new traditions of trust that will benefit your lineage for generations to come. This is the prophetic significance of what you're doing tonight, chosen one. This is the eternal impact of the decision you're making right now. This is the lasting legacy of the shift you're embracing in this moment. But let me tell you something even more powerful about this flow you're stepping into. It doesn't just multiply your blessings overnight. It multiplies your authority overnight. It doesn't just accelerate your provision. It accelerates your influence. It doesn't just increase your favor. It increases your impact. When chosen ones learn to flow instead of force, they don't just become more blessed. They become more powerful. They don't just receive more. They accomplish more. They don't just experience breakthrough. They facilitate breakthrough for multitudes. Chosen one, I'm receiving a vision right now of your life 12 months from now. I see you standing in front of thousands of people, sharing your testimony of how you learned to stop forcing and start flowing. I see them hanging on every word, desperate to understand how you experienced such radical transformation in such a short period of time. And you will tell them the story of this night. You will describe this moment. You will explain this shift. And as you speak, the same anointing that transformed your life will begin to transform their lives. The same revelation that shifted your reality will begin to shift their reality. The same flow that multiplied your blessings will begin to multiply their blessings. This is your future, chosen one. This is your destiny. This is your assignment. You are not just chosen to be blessed. You are chosen to be a blessing multiplier. You are not just called to receive flow. You are called to teach flow. You are not just destined to experience breakthrough. You are destined to impart breakthrough. And it all begins with this one simple shift that you're making right now. Chosen one, let me share with you another layer of this revelation that will blow your mind. When you flow instead of force, you don't just align with God's will for your life. You align with God's heart for your life. And there's a profound difference between God's will and God's heart. God's will is what He wants to accomplish through your life. But God's heart is how He wants to accomplish it. God's will is the destination. But God's heart is the journey. God's will is the blessing. But God's heart is the process of blessing. And when you align with God's heart, when you flow with His preferred method, when you surrender to His chosen process, you don't just receive what He wants to give you. You receive it the way He wants to give it to you. You don't just access His provision. You access His pleasure. You don't just experience His blessing. You experience His joy in blessing you. This is why flowing feels so much better than forcing, chosen one. This is why surrendering feels so much more peaceful than struggling. This is why trusting feels so much more restful than trying. Because when you flow, you're not just aligning with God's plan. You're aligning with God's heart. You're not just accessing His will. You're accessing His way. You're not just receiving His blessing. You're receiving His best. And God's best is not just bigger blessings. It's better blessings. It's not just more provision. It's higher quality provision. It's not just greater favor. It's deeper favor. When you force your way to blessing, you might get what you want, but you might not get what God wants for you. When you struggle your way to breakthrough, you might achieve your goal, but you might miss God's greater goal for your life. When you push your way to provision, you might receive something good, but you might forfeit something great. But when you flow with God's heart, when you surrender to His process, when you trust His timing, you don't just get good. You get great. You don't just receive blessing. You receive the blessing. You don't just experience breakthrough. You experience the breakthrough that was custom designed for your life, your purpose, your destiny. Chosen one, this is why God allowed you to go through the season of forcing that you went through. This is why He permitted you to experience the struggle that you experienced. This is why He allowed you to walk through the frustration that you walked through. Not because He wanted you to suffer, but because He wanted you to discover the difference between your way and His way. Not because He enjoyed watching you struggle, but because He knew that once you experienced the flow, you would never want to go back to forcing. Not because He was withholding His best from you, but because He was preparing you to receive His best for you. And now you understand. Now you see. Now you know. The difference between forcing and flowing is not just a matter of method. It's a matter of relationship. It's not just about technique. It's about trust. It's not just about strategy. It's about surrender. When you flow, you're not just accessing God's power. You're accessing God's presence. You're not just receiving God's provision. You're receiving God's pleasure. You're not just experiencing God's blessing. You're experiencing God's heart. And this changes everything, chosen one. Because when you operate from God's heart instead of just God's will, when you move in God's pleasure instead of just God's power, when you flow in God's presence instead of just God's provision, you become unstoppable. Not because you're forcing your way through obstacles, but because obstacles remove themselves from your path. Not because you're fighting your way through opposition, but because opposition surrenders to your anointing. Not because you're pushing your way through barriers, but because barriers dissolve in the presence of your flow. This is the realm you're entering, chosen one. This is the dimension you're accessing. This is the frequency you're operating on. And from this place, from this position, from this posture, your blessings don't just multiply overnight. They compound exponentially. They don't just increase incrementally. They explode supernaturally. They don't just grow gradually. They expand miraculously. Chosen one, I want you to understand that what you've experienced tonight is not just a shift in your thinking. It's not just a change in your approach. It's not just an adjustment in your methodology. It's a complete transformation of your spiritual DNA. It's a total recalibration of your faith frequency. It's an absolute rewiring of your belief system. You literally think differently now. You process differently now. You respond differently now. You react differently now. You operate differently now. Where you used to see problems, you now see possibilities. Where you used to feel pressure, you now sense peace. Where you used to experience panic, you now encounter presence. Where you used to face frustration, you now find flow. This is not just a mental change, chosen one. This is a cellular change. This is a molecular change. This is a spiritual genetic modification that has taken place in the very core of your being. And this transformation is irreversible. You cannot go back to who you were before tonight. You cannot return to how you operated before this moment. You cannot revert to the patterns you practiced before this revelation. Because once you've tasted flow, forcing becomes intolerable. Once you've experienced surrender, struggling becomes unbearable. Once you've known trust, trying becomes impossible. You have been ruined for the ordinary, chosen one. You have been spoiled for the mediocre. You have been addicted to the supernatural. And this addiction to the supernatural, this craving for the miraculous, this hunger for the impossible is what will drive your blessings to multiply at a rate that will astound even you. Because when chosen ones become addicted to flow, when warriors become addicted to surrender, when believers become addicted to trust, they begin to operate in realms of possibility that defy natural explanation, that transcend human understanding, that exceed earthly limitation. Chosen one, let me paint one final picture for you of what your life looks like from this moment forward. I see you waking up every morning with an expectation of miracles, not because you're going to force them to happen, but because you know they're going to flow to you. I see you going through your day with a confidence in breakthrough, not because you're going to struggle for it, but because you're aligned with the current that carries it. I see you ending each day with gratitude for provision, not because you worked for it, but because you flowed with it. I see you living in a dimension where the supernatural becomes natural, where the impossible becomes inevitable, where the miraculous becomes mundane. This is your new normal, chosen one. This is your new reality. This is your new lifestyle. You are flowing, and everything you need is flowing to you. You are surrendering, and everything you desire is surrendering to you. You are trusting, and everything you've dreamed of is manifesting in your life. The shift is complete. The transformation is finished. The alignment is established. Your blessings are multiplying overnight, not just because you changed your method, but because you changed your mindset. Not just because you adjusted your approach, but because you altered your frequency. Not just because you modified your technique, but because you transformed your entire being. You are no longer the chosen one who forces. You are now the chosen one who flows. You are no longer the warrior who struggles. You are now the warrior who surrenders. You are no longer the believer who tries. You are now the believer who trusts. And from this place of flow, from this position of surrender, from this posture of trust, there is no limit to what God can do through you, for you, with you, and in you. Your season of multiplication has begun, chosen one, and it will never end. Let it flow. Let it multiply. Let it manifest. This is your time. This is your season. This is your overflow. Welcome to the flow, chosen one. Welcome to your destiny.